So my first question would be, shouldn't you make some choose for which people the direct path is appropriate? That would be my first question.
Well, I let the selection process take place naturally.
Okay.
Anyone that comes to my meetings is ripe for the direct path.
Okay.
And anyone that doesn't, isn't. I don't need to select.
Is it really so easy?
It's really so easy. If you are here, you are ready for the direct path. Okay. And if you are not, it doesn't necessarily mean you're not ready for the direct path. But if for some reason you have watched one of my videos or one of Franz's videos or read one of Atmananda Krishna Menon's books and you think, no, this is not for me, then the natural selection process has taken place and that person won't show up at one of these meetings.
Okay. And it proved to be a correct selection?
Yes.
Yeah? Oh, wonderful. Okay.
As I said, yes, were you here yesterday?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, you were here all weekend. Yes, so I did tell the story of that one person who came to my early meeting, who in hindsight, if I had been more mature, I would have said, well, why don't you leave it for another 6 months? Mm-hmm. But to my knowledge, that's one person out of I don't know, 20,000 people who have been to my meetings over the last 10 years.
Okay.
So,
wonderful.
Yes, I feel now that there are very, very few people in the world who are not ripe for the direct path. I think that the direct path is the path for our age.
Okay.
I think that our age and the stage that humanity has got to, that it is now no longer necessary to go the traditional progressive path. I'm not criticizing the progressive paths, or I would never do anything to persuade anyone on a progressive path to change. But I feel that it's no longer necessary because the direct path is now available, and it's been made very explicit and clear now in a way that even 10 and 20, 30 years ago it wasn't. And I feel that it doesn't require any training, it doesn't require any allegiance to a philosophy, a teacher, a tradition. It doesn't require a particular level of intelligence. I mean, by that I mean a kind of educated intelligence. It just requires a natural intelligence that even someone who is uneducated has. It only requires an interest. And there's nothing that I've said these last couple of days, apart from perhaps when I begin to elaborate my consciousness-only models, but those are not really essential to the teaching. The real essential teaching about going to our being and knowing the nature of our being, which is in fact the essence of the Dzogchen teaching. I don't think there's anything I've said that could not be understood by any of the 7 billion of us.
Okay.
All that is required is to be interested. Okay. If someone is interested, I don't see why this teaching should not be made available to anyone. It requires no level of intelligence, no subscription to any teacher or teaching, no form of practice, no qualifications, just an interest.
But isn't there some danger that the people who get some glimpse of enlightenment, they think about themselves, okay, I could be now also some kind of a guru and lead some other people onto a wrong path, isn't it?
It's true that
a bigger
sometimes,
danger than in the progressive path.
Yes, of course, that sometimes happens, but those people tend to get their comeuppance sooner or later.
See?
Those people tend to get their comeuppance. Do you have that? Can you cope with that, Adrian? Your comeuppance. It means sooner or later. So someone, as you say, begins to teach, and if they are not sufficiently stabilized in this understanding or not mature enough, usually something happens around them that makes it very clear, if not to themselves, to everybody else, that they are not sufficiently. Yes, it doesn't prevent this from happening, but if it does start, of course there are exceptions. There are people that we know where cults have grown. But of course, that's always a danger. It's always a danger that this teaching, this understanding can be appropriated by the ego and used to serve the ego's desires. And yes, it's a danger. And that is why, to the best of my ability, I make sure that at least this expression of the direct path is very clean and completely free of any of the kind of antics and paraphernalia that are traditionally associated with the guru-student relationship, and why I want to keep this expression very, very clean, so that the direct path in its purity is available, and I do my best to make it with the help of YouTube and do my best to make it available as widely as possible, and there is a huge amount of interest. I discovered just a few weeks ago my YouTube channel has just had its 16 millionth view. That's a lot of people who are interested in these matters. So I think this is the age of the direct path, and that it should be made freely available to everyone.
And the second question, it would be...
Sorry.
The second question, it would be about your engagement, because you seem to be a little bit reluctant to give some answers, and it was also today to hear from you that you just have to respond to some questions, but you don't, not really propagate, but you don't... in Tibetan Buddhism, there is the ideal of the Bodhisattva, which means that you try to gain enlightenment in order to help sentient beings to get enlightened too. So for me, it seems that...
I see you all as enlightened beings, so I don't have any sense of trying to enlighten you.
Yes.
I see you all as the one light of being. So I don't have a mission to enlighten anybody.
Yes, that's good. But the problem, the Buddhism also sees this more or less in this way. But nevertheless, they also see that many people are suffering. So when you become a Buddha, you have the task to help other people to get enlightened with by doing some
I hope I never become a Buddha. What would becoming a Buddha mean? I don't want to be a Buddha.
No, you don't have. I just see that you are...
What is a Buddha? Buddha is just another name for the nature of our being. That's what Buddha means, the light of our being. How can one become that? It's not a status that is conferred upon a particular person. Buddha just means your awakened mind. Your already fully awakened mind. You now, each of us now, is essentially the light of pure being. We cannot become that. No particular person. There isn't one person that's a Buddha and that another person isn't. It's just we are all the light of this being. In some cases, this being is still veiled by thoughts and feelings. But I have absolutely no sense of being an enlightened person. I mean this. I'm not just saying this. I mean this. I have never thought of myself. Maybe other people say it about me. I don't know. But I have never once had the thought, I am enlightened. I have never once had the thought about somebody else, you are not enlightened.
No,
Just the nature of my being is clear to me. How did it become clear to me? I can't exactly say how. I was, as you know, in the traditional Advaita path, but then I met Francis, and really it was through my time I spent with Francis, without my knowing how, just simply the nature of my being, it just became obvious to me. Just everything that previously had veiled the knowing of my own being just disappeared. How did it disappear? I don't know. It's like a headache. Nobody ever notices when a headache leaves or how it leaves. You just notice at the end of the day, oh, my headache's no longer there. Yeah. Well, I noticed that whatever it is that clouded my own being, somehow it's no longer there, and my own being is clear to me. That's it. That's all I can say. And I also love to speak about it. To share. It's what I love to do. It's my joy. I love doing it. And but I don't have a mission. No. And I don't feel that I'm an enlightened person. I don't see any unenlightened people. I see just all this beautiful being, these beautiful beings. And of course I see that in some cases being is still veiled more or less thinly by a veneer of thoughts and feelings. And so hence these contemplations and meditations and conversations.